Can you identify the serial killer by their childhood photos? There will be 5 clues per photo to help you along. Stay until the end where their identities will be revealed. Portrayed by Charlize Theron in the movie Monster. She shot 7 men to death. Believed to have had a consensual sexual relationship with her own brother. Was executed in 2002 by lethal injection. Her final words before execution were, "I'd just like to say, I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie, big mothership and all. I'll be back." He once worked in a suicide prevention center. He was executed in the electric chair in 1989. Whilst incarcerated, he offered help in the Green River Killer investigation. He escaped prison twice. He murdered at least 30 women. Admitted to having sexual feelings toward his own mother. Although he had a very low IQ, he was able to evade the police and FBI for well over a decade. He sometimes took his young son with him, when picking up his victims. He was charged with 35 murders, but true figure believed to be around 60. He dumped the majority of his victims in the Green River. He was adopted into a Jewish family. He was known as the son of Sam. He claimed his neighbor's dog ordered him to commit murder. He claimed that he was part of a satanic cult. He shot 6 people to death in New York. He dressed as a clown to entertain local children. Killed at least 35 men. He buried at least 15 of his victims in the crawlspace of his house. He was executed in 1994 by lethal injection. His final words were, "Kiss my ass." As a child, his mother tried to trade him for a crate of beer. He was the head of the cult known as the Family. It is unclear whether he actually murdered anyone himself. He ordered his followers to murder the actress Sharon Tate and her friends. Despite being illiterate, he had an IQ of 120. He once accidentally hit and killed a child, in his ice cream van. He committed his crimes alongside his wife. He removed toes, fingers and ribs, as souvenirs. He was arrested for the murders of at least 12 young women and children. He hung himself in prison on New Year's Day, before he could go to trial. He had a false eye. It is believed that he committed his first murder aged 15. Committed murder with his accomplice, Otis Toole. He murdered his own mother. He falsely admitted to hundreds of unsolved crimes in exchange for prison luxuries. He worked as a general practitioner for decades. He was nicknamed Dr. Death. It is believed that he may have murdered over 200 people. He poisoned the majority of his patients. He hanged himself in prison. He was an alcoholic from a really young age. He committed his first murder at the age of 18. He cannibalized many of his victims. He tried to create living zombies, by drilling into his victims' heads. He murdered 17 men and boys in total. He idolized Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. Murdered children with the help of his girlfriend. Buried his victims on the moors. Audiotaped himself torturing children. Went on hunger strike whilst in prison. He is 6 feet 9 inches tall. At the age of 15, he murdered both his grandparents. He went on to kill his own mother. As well as murdering his grandparents, mother, and his mother's friend, he also killed 6 co-eds. He was featured in the first season of Netflix's true crime series, Mindhunter. She regularly had sex with her own father. Committed rape, torture and murder, with her husband. It's believed that she had murdered her stepdaughter Charmaine. Lived at 25 Cromwell Street, Gloucester. Rumored to have had a sexual relationship behind bars with Myra Hindley. One of the only women in England to be sentenced to life with no chance of parole. She stabbed 3 men to death. Whilst on the run, she attacked 2 men, who nearly died from their injuries. Made death threats against Rose West when they were neighbors in prison. She said she killed because she enjoyed it. He was known as the Yorkshire Ripper. He murdered at least 13 women. He typically murdered prostitutes. He was held in the notorious Broadmoor Hospital. He died in 2020. It was rumored that his older brother was kidnapped and eaten during the Depression. He murdered at least 50 women and children. He killed some victims by biting through their windpipes. He removed the penises of certain boys and admitted to eating them. He was executed by firing squad. Before committing his terrible crimes, he emailed his manifesto titled, A European Declaration of Independence, to 5,700 people. He planted and detonated a bomb outside the building of Norway's Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg, which killed 8 people and injured hundreds. Whilst dressed as a police officer, he shot and killed 69 people at a political youth summer camp. Despite the magnitude of his crimes, he could only be sentenced to 21 years behind bars, although it's believed that his sentence will be extended. Committed the single worst massacre in Norway's history. He was the inspiration behind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Leatherface. He was also the inspiration behind Psycho's Norman Bates. He would steal corpses from their graves. He created furniture out of his victim's skin. He created a female skin suit from the skin of his victims. He admitted that he wanted to murder enough people to fill in each square of a chessboard. He started his killing career at age 18, by murdering 2 friends. Murdered at least 48 people. One of his favorite techniques to murder, was to crack open a victim's skull, and to shove a vodka bottle into their brain. He kept a detailed account of every victim he killed, something which helped investigators to convict him. Styled himself after the Batman villain, the Joker. Committed mass murder in Aurora, Colorado. Shot and killed 12 people during a screening of The Dark Knight Rises. His shooting spree also seriously injured 70 people. Booby-trapped his home, hoping to kill any officers that entered his home. Aileen Wuornos. Ted Bundy. Gary Ridgway. David Berkowitz. John Wayne Gacy. Charles Manson. Fred West. Henry Lee Lucas. Harold Shipman. Jeffrey Dahmer. Ian Brady. Edmund Kemper. Rose West. Joe Ann Dennehy. Peter Sutcliffe. Andre Chikatilo. Anders Breivik. Ed Gein. Alexander Pichushkin. James Holmes.